unpacking today's headlines. This is Souls and Liberty in Depth.
Hello everyone, and welcome to In Depth, production of Souls and Liberty, brought to you in partnership with MyPillow.com, and a special salute to all our military servicemen and women here on this Veterans Day. The MAGA revolution is already upending the status quo here in the United States. What's more, it's inspiring people around the world.
And we want you to succeed. Forget about the people in London. Forget about the establishment. Forget about the detractors in the fake news media. The real people out there in the United Kingdom. We love you, Mr. President!
More on the global Trump effect in a moment, but first...
If you have to say you're the king, you're not the king. When Biden first took over, his first statement was America's back. And boy, was that a terrifying statement.
Globalists, of course, are quaking in the wake of Trump's victory, but people who love liberty are celebrating everywhere. Here to talk about all this today is Souls and Liberty contributor Arthur Clareau. I'm your host, Stephen Wynn, coming to you from Kansas City. Arthur, social media is brimming with footage of people rejoicing across the globe in that news of Trump's victory. And I'd like to get your perspective on this. You're Canadian, like tens of millions of us here in the U.S., tens of millions abroad. You are celebrating the fact that Trump is going to be returning to Washington. Tell us why.
What a lot of people in the United States, but I think across Europe and the West, don't really understand or have not been shown or told is that the West has been interconnected for a very long time. The United States was a product of Europe, and as a result, the connection between the two has always been very strong, and they've always influenced each other very strongly. And I think for people in the West, what's making everyone so joyous over this occasion is that every single Western nation has been facing the exact same issues that the United States has been facing. We had a complete disregard pretty much for national sovereignty at around the mid-1960s and just increased since then. And that might sound odd to some who have been patriotic till very recently or only recently noticed the patriotism leaving broader society. But for a lot of, especially Europe and Canada and some of these other places, that happened a long time ago for us. Yet within each of these countries, there are still large numbers of people who miss that. They miss having a nation. They miss having a homeland. They miss having something that was not just a broad economic zone that's open for whatever and whomever to do whatever they want kind of thing. And so the Trump win in the United States right now makes it very apparent that there's this demand for sovereignty, for governments that actually take, that have their focus on the job they're supposed to be doing, which is governing and making life better, or at least getting out of the way so life can be better for their people, as opposed to interfering in the worst ways and then also supporting, mass immigration, supporting wars overseas, supporting all sorts of other things that are detrimental to the people at home. And then on top of that, I think outside of the West, there's this sort of feeling of, okay, the adults have finally come back into the room. It's like a preschool playhouse, and everyone was going rough and rowdy because there was no one around. Some people were instigating, and there were people who've been victims, people who were being bullies, people who were a bit of both. But regardless, it was chaos, and people were getting hurt all over the world. And I think the hope now is that, okay, finally someone with some common sense has stepped in the room. Finally, a teacher's back, an adult is back, and let's hope they can sort out this mess that exists right now.
Yeah, I think that's right. I think, it turns out people like the countries that they live in. They love their homelands. They like the borders that surround them. And yeah, as you say, the the much heralded New World Order that we've been hearing about for the past several decades, it's been anything but. It's been nothing but disorder and chaos, and a lot of people have lost out because of it. So, yeah, I think you're right. I think that really underpins a lot of the rejoicing that's going on right now. When we come back, we'll look at the common threat that the communist left poses to the world. Stay tuned.
Because of your overwhelming support, our 1488 MyPillow has been one of the biggest sales in MyPillow history. I couldn't think of a better way to say thank you than to extend our wholesale pricing through Christmas. Get a classic standard MyPillow for only $14.88. Upgrade to a queen size, just $18.88. King size, only $1 more. Get my body pillows for only $29.88. And ready? Multi-use MyPillows, only $9.88. It's perfect time to stock up for Christmas gifts for everyone on your list. Go to mypillow.com or call the number on your screen. Use your promo code to take advantage of our wholesale pricing, including my classic standard MyPillows, only $14.88. But that's not all. I'm so confident you're going to love our classic MyPillows that I'm going to extend my 60-day money-back guarantee until March 1st, 2025. Plus, orders over $75 ship absolutely free.
Building on our earlier discussion, back in July, a large group of British patriots held a rally outside the Houses of Parliament in central London. And during the assembly, they had a very frank message for the people of the United States. This, I think, says it all.
Our message to Donald Trump and the United States and every American who's watching this. Your election in November is far bigger than your country, okay? Donald Trump is needed in this world to bring back peace. His leadership is needed to save the West. All of our countries are being flooded. They are destroying our cultures. They're bringing us down. It's an attack on the West. There's only one person who's going to stop it. You have the opportunity in November with these legends.
Arthur, the speaker warned they, meaning the globalist communist left, are attacking the West, destroying its culture, and really rushing us headlong into war. This ultimately is really what it comes down to, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Again, it's a little bit like what we talked about a little bit earlier here, where in Britain, as well as in the United States, there was this feeling of we have no control over our country. Our country's very quickly disappearing. It's the only place in the world that's like this. And if this continues the way it's going, it won't exist. My grandchildren will never know what England is like, or what America is like, or what Canada is like. We feel the same way here in Canada as well. In many ways, a lot of Canadians just don't know what the future is going to hold, or if there will even be a Canada that they knew in 10, 15, 20 years. So it's a big concern. And it has been kind of forced upon the populations as well. Like you were saying, the kind of globalist communist infrastructure, whatever it is, like the Democrats in the United States, they talk a lot about democracy, but their actions are anything but. Their actions are very tyrannical. It's you obey us, you go with what we want. Our vision for the world is the only way. And if you don't like it, we're going to call you these names. We're going to destroy your reputation. We'll destroy your business. We'll with Elon Musk and X, we'll attack your advertisers unless you bow down to us. And so the West is at this crossroads right now where if this was allowed to go on even a little longer, it probably would have been over in more ways than one. And so again, back to the earlier point, that Trump win shows that there is a way of taking things back. And I think that's what encourages people so much.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, it's when you see these celebrations erupting across the West and even beyond the West, it's very, very telling. It just shows that there's a a common threat that's perceived in countries all over the world. And, we know that obviously Christ is the only ultimate solution to the world's ills, but the world is starving for real leadership. And I think Trump represents the greatest hope of that at this particular moment in time. When we come back, the Trump effect is already at work on the world stage. Stay with us.
The establishment has tried to assassinate President Trump twice, but we can't really be shocked that those who slaughter 1 million unborn babies each year would try to kill one more human being who stands in the way of their diabolical agenda. Trump, like every one of us, including all of us at Souls and Liberty, is a sinner. But like all of us, he is in the fight and fighting for all of us to get one more chance, maybe a last chance, to save the republic. We must hang together, or as Benjamin Franklin said, we shall hang separately. And maybe far sooner than many imagine, because communists take over and always persecute Christians and Catholics in particular. Let us help you fight these forces of evil. Become a monthly supporter today so we can continue giving you the information, the tools of our faith, and the support network you need to go out and save souls and save our nation. Join our merry band of happy warriors and click below to get into the fight. We need you, we need each other. Join the resistance. Become a monthly donor today.
Less than a week after Trump's re-election, the reverberations are being felt across the world. And I'm just going to do a recap here of some major headlines coming. Let me just refer to my notes here, if you will. Chinese President Xi Jinping has said he wants China to peacefully coexist with the United States. In Russia, President Vladimir Putin, he has declared that Western civilization is not his country's enemy. The president of the EU, Ursula von der Leyen, has asked Trump to supply the EU with liquefied natural gas so the body will not have to purchase its fuel supply from Russia moving forward. The Middle Eastern nation of Qatar, it's warning leaders of Hamas that they are no longer welcome in their country. And in Afghanistan, the Taliban has said they want peace with the United States and to be taken off our list of terrorist groups. And all this before Trump has even entered office. Arthur, world leaders seem to know America is back.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's a quote that basically says, if you have to say you're the king, you're not the king. When Biden first took over, his first statement was America's back. And boy, was that a terrifying statement, because everything that followed was, well, brought us to here. And yet here we have Trump. He didn't need to make the statement. He didn't need to explicitly say that. He just won an election. He hasn't even taken office. He hasn't done a thing about it yet. Just by winning the election, everything is starting to fall in line. It's almost, for someone like me who's observed the world for a little while, it's almost a little too good to be true. Sometimes I'm like, okay, what's behind this? But let's be real for a second here. This is the difference between someone who I think the world believes it has the ability to at least negotiate in good faith with, and a sort of cabal that for a very long time has been running a whole other game than what they've been telling the American people and then what the world's been aware of. And then you can go back to Libya in, I believe it was 2011, Syria in 2012 to 14. I mean, you can go long before this as well, but and you can go into just all of the ventures into the Middle East recently, the provoking of war between Russia and Ukraine, just the instability en masse around the world because of these little games being played by people who I'm not sure if they knew what they were doing and went ahead anyways, consequences be damned, or if they were too stupid to know what they were doing. But either way, the consequences were horrible. And I think this shows, like I said, it shows that they believe that there's the potential to deal with Donald Trump in good faith. I think for Putin particularly, he's been trying to get a peace agreement on the table pretty much since 2022, a couple of months after the war started. And for one reason or another, those have been they just haven't worked out. They've been undermined. They've fallen through. And granted, I'm sure he has certain unreasonable expectations, like anyone would when they come to a negotiating table. You're going to ask for the moon, and then you're going to work your way down to something reasonable. And it's unfortunate that this is the case in Ukraine and Russia. But at the very least, now we have someone who is open to coming to the table, as opposed to just continuing this hell that's going on there right now. And as far as some of these other groups, I mean, you've got within, I think it was 48 hours, you had the Houthis in Yemen calling for peace. You had Hamas calling for peace. You had, as you mentioned, there's an entire list of these groups that are like, look, we're done. We don't want this anymore. Let's find solutions. So I think that's going to be, I mean, personally, I think Trump's going to love that. This seems to be his thing ever since the beginning. I mean, he wrote the book, The Art of the Deal. He loves negotiating. He loves making deals. And I think part of the reason why he ran in the first place was that he saw the world stage as the greatest deal-making buffet out there where he could really, show his ability. So I think he's going to get after it. And I think he's going to do great things in that regard. But I think there's also an aspect where we need to be careful, the American public need to be careful and be very watchful and help to support him in picking the people that are going to be going into that administration and helping make these policies. Because part of the problem for the last decades has been that deep state that wanted these conflicts for one reason or another. No matter how confusing or chaotic things seem, there's always someone who has a perfectly logical reason for why that's happening. We might just not be aware of it. So that's what was going on. So we need to be very careful to make sure that doesn't happen again, because one of the great mantras in politics is, if you can't beat them, join them. But you don't just join them, you join them and then you try to redirect them. And we've had that in Republican Republican Congresses and Senates and presidencies for a long time, right? I mean, you've had Bush and Obama both ran on no more wars. And Bush is the best example of, boy, did that not go well. So a little bit of caution, a little bit of care, but a lot of hope.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just in the past 24 hours, we've had announcements of two major picks who are going to be, their choosing is going to have major international implications. They're going to be involved, I think, in a lot of frontline diplomatic bartering here. The first is Trump tapped former U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Director Thomas Homan to serve as his border czar. What a change from Kamala Harris. Trump said, quote, there is nobody better at policing and controlling our borders. Tom Homan will be in charge of deportation of all illegal aliens back to their country of origin. Additionally, Trump picked Congresswoman Elise Stefanik of New York to serve as U.S. ambassador to the United Nations, calling her, quote, an incredibly strong, tough, and smart America First fighter. Arthur, these picks are sure to really shake things up internationally, are they not?
I believe so. I believe so. And I think that last bit of his sentence is key. An America First fighter. I think that is going to be that has to be the crux of every single decision. And I think two of the best ways to determine that is, what does this person think about foreign wars and foreign intervention? And what does this person think about mass immigration? Because those two things just seem to be the parts that both the neoliberal deep state and the neoconservative deep state agreed on. They would disagree on all sorts of things, but when it came to those two things, man, did they join hands and sing Kumbaya. So I think that's a good metric to judge by. As far as Tom Homan, I don't like to, I mean, not that my opinion matters all that much, but I don't like to give endorsements or, personal, because I don't know these people personally. But if ever there was someone who seems perfectly fit for that job, it's Tom, and it's this job. I mean, he's a 35-year veteran of Border Patrol and ICE. He knows what he's doing. He's come up through the ranks. He was just a regular guy, did a great job, and worked his way up through the ranks. And he gave that stellar speech at the RNC on this exact topic. And I mean, this was one of the biggest issues in the actual election. This was one of the biggest concerns for Americans, was border security, getting rid of the illegals in the country. This is decades in the making. Obama promised it again, Bush promised it again. Like so many of these people, this goes back decades, this issue. So actually getting after it on day one, within 24, 48 hours, Trump was already talking about it, already discussing how he was going to get it done. And now he's tapped Tom Homan to do it. I think that shows that he's very serious about this particular issue.
Yeah. Agreed. Yeah, it's very encouraging, I think, all in all. Final point here. You mentioned the outbreak of various wars under Biden-Harris. As we wrap up on this Veterans Day, I'd like to play a final clip here that I think is very pertinent. Basically, this clip captured the reaction of cadets at the Virginia Military Institute early the next morning, the morning after the election was decided, November 6th. It's inspiring and it's very telling. Let's take a look.
Attention, inside and outside areas. The winner of the 2024 presidential election is Donald J. Trump.
Let's go!
All right, now, aside from whatever other reasons those cadets may have had for supporting Trump, I think a huge motivator is is the knowledge that under a Trump administration, they're not going to be sent flippantly into war. They're not going to be used as cannon fodder for the military-industrial complex. I think the reaction says so much. Arthur, closing thoughts?
I think it does as well. There's a couple of parts to this. One of the, I think the main ones is soldiers fight for each other, but they mostly fight for a leader and for a cause. You remember with Julius Caesar and his legions crossing the Rubicon, that was because they had so much respect for that leader that they would have followed him anywhere. They followed him over and above their duty to their country in that case. Or maybe because of their duty to their country. But in this case with Trump, I think you're absolutely right. It's one of those where they recognize someone who genuinely seems to care about America, which is the thing that it's the nation that they've decided they are willing to die for by taking on that uniform. And so by having someone in the White House who takes it seriously, again, like you said, is not going to send them flippantly somewhere for no good reason or for some corporate interest, but is actually going to A, make wise decisions, B, have their back should those decisions be made, I think is really important. There's almost nothing more powerful than having a leader that genuinely seems to love the country and the people that make it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. He inspires and motivates, and that has been sorely lacking during the past nearly 4 years of Biden-Harris. Arthur, thank you again. Excellent analysis and discussion as always. Thank you to our viewers for joining us for another episode of In Depth. And once again, to our military servicemen and women, thank you for all you do. God bless you.